When the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams get set up for their epic matchup, it's not just going to be great primetime television. Both teams are going to be making NFL history. Stay tuned, everybody. It's about to be fun.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10, 5, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions. And
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving into it. But before we dive in, I just want to say to all my returning viewers and subscribers, thank you all for coming back. Thank you all for your view, your support, your patronage. It means the world to me that I have such loyal subscribers, and I'm so thankful for each and every one of y'all. But for those also that are tuning into my show for the very first time, I want to say thank you all for giving my show a shot. Thank you all for tuning in. It absolutely means the world to me as well. But what would mean even more to me is not only do you enjoy the content, but I gain your subscription if I've earned and deserved it. And with that being said, to everybody, I hope you all have a great day. Hope you all are having just an absolutely fantastic time. God bless, and let's dive into the show. So, here's the thing, folks. When we take a look at the Lions are a team that, if you think about it, over the last 30-some years, we have had to bust our butts and have had to work the hard way to earn everything that we've gotten given to us. And I'm talking about all the good things. That's what I'm specifically talking about. So, when you're talking about that, the Lions have had to overwork, they've had to work harder to get everything that's been given to them as far as good things, such as playoffs, such as all that stuff. Now, here's the thing. Over the last 30 years, the Lions have now officially won their first division crown in the last 30 years. That in of itself is a pretty big accomplishment, again, as the hat does say. But not only have the Lions won their first division crown in the last 30 years, they've won their first NFC North division crown, as we all know. And the reason why is because in 2002, the NFL realigned the divisions, getting rid of the previous division that the Lions were in, which was the NFC Central when they won their last crown in 1993, and then moved to the NFC North, which they had not won until this year. So again, pretty big accomplishment, something that the players, the coaches, everybody that's a part of the Lions organization worked very, very hard for. But then you have to think about this. Not only did the Lions get that division crown, they also got a home playoff berth. They got a home playoff game. Again, something that has not been done since 1993 when we got our last division crown. So again, there's a lot of big things that this season has allowed the Lions to earn and enjoy. And it's a season that I think that a lot of Lions fans are going to remember fondly for a lot of years. Because you got to think about this, folks. Like, seriously, let's think about this. When you go back and you take a look at the whole picture of this season, it has been an epic season with a lot of great moments to it. But I'm going to tell you this right now. What makes this season and makes this moment even more epic, even more magnificent, even more kind of surreal for Lions fans is that, think about this. First home playoff game in 30 years, and what do we get? The Lions get to host the team that helped them make one of the biggest blockbuster trades in all of NFL history with the swapping of quarterbacks in the Los Angeles Rams. So again, not only do you have the fact the Lions get a division title, not only do they win their first division title for the NFC North, not only do they get a home playoff game for the first time in 30 years, on top of all that, the team that the Lions get to play in that home playoff game is the Los Angeles Rams, who helped them who swapped quarterbacks with them and helped the Lions, in essence, build their team up through all them draft picks. So, this game is huge. Again, I'm going to just say this right now. No game in the NFC Wildcard or AFC Wildcard is going to top this game. This is literally the big game of the entire of the entire NFL Wildcard round. No game's going to top this one. And it makes sense when you start hearing all the news we're hearing about. Like freaking, if I recall correctly, I read a report that tickets for the Lions-Rams game right now is selling at $900 a ticket. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's a lot of money to be given up for one ticket. But when you think about just how much is going into this game, not only, like I said, is it an epic, huge, just magnificently big game, it's also completely unprecedented. Think about this. If you think about it, there have been times when quarterbacks have gone back and have played their old teams in the regular season. But let's just think about this one for a moment. At no time in NFL history until now have two starting quarterbacks faced against each other against also their former teams. You can take a look at it throughout the entirety of NFL history. No two starting quarterbacks have played each other's former teams in a playoff game until now. So not only is this an epic game, this is a historical game that we're about to see because it's never happened in NFL history. So this game has got a lot of huge implications, and this is going to be a monumental game. Just an absolutely stupendously monumental game. Now, that leads us into the part of this whole conversation that we're about to have. What implications does this game realistically have? Well, when you're talking about what I just talked about, pretty much what we're talking about here is the quarterbacks. And I know that this is a narrative, this is a conversation talking piece that is going to get killed and ran over to death over the next couple of days until we get to the Sunday primetime game. But you have to be realistically honest here. What makes this game so big is because of the quarterback swap that's now going to have these two quarterbacks playing each other. Stafford coming back to Detroit to play with the team that he was the franchise quarterback for so long, and Goff going up against his ex-head coach and Sean McVay and his old team that he took to the Super Bowl. I mean, that right there in and of itself sets up the entire narrative, as I've said before. But you have to think about this in a completely different way. You need to take a look at this from another perspective. Take a look at what Stafford and Goff really mean to the Detroit Lions here, especially to Lions fans. This is going to actually kind of be an interesting comparison here, but follow it with me. If you take a look at Stafford, what does Stafford represent to Lions fans? He represents the same old Lions mindset. Because think about it. He was there right after we went 0-16. He only had 4 winning seasons with us. He was a part of that SOL mindset for virtually the entire time he was here in Detroit. So Stafford kind of represents the old, dying, same old Lions mindset that's been hanging around forever and a day. What does Goff represent to the Lions fans? He represents that new era Lions, that brand new Lions, that Lions idea, mindset, and identity that is completely opposite of SOL. So these two quarterbacks represent two different eras of Lions football. One represents the misery and disappointment that has been associated with being a Lions fan in the Lions organization. The other represents the joy, the confidence, which is the complete opposite of that for the Lions organization and their fans. So, you look at that. The Lions have started that new era, new chapter, whatever term you'd like to use, with Goff, Campbell, Holmes, Sheila, and all these other important pieces like Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. List goes on and on. So, you have the Lions who have re-identified themselves as the new era Lions or the brand new Lions, and their identity is all about grit. Now, if you think about it, despite the fact that there is that new identity, there's that lingering stink on the ghost kind of same old Lions that's kind of lingering and hanging around because some Lions fans just don't know when to let it go and they keep bringing it up because they're afraid that if for one moment they believe that the Lions have completely changed, the Lions are going to let them pay for it. But you have to think about this here. Like, get past that for a minute. Think about what truly is going to happen, what it means for Lions fans and the Lions organization if Goff and the Lions beat the Rams and Stafford at Ford Field for the Wildcard round for their first playoff victory in over 30 years. it would officially and finally close the chapter on SOL. I know a lot of people have said SOL is already dead, but it's like, listen, you do that against the guy that was a part of the SOL. Now that you've got your guy that's your part of your brand new era Lions, you can now completely say, yes, SOL is officially dead. And you can literally chalk it up to an exact date. So for me, that is what this means in one sense, is old Lions versus new Lions. And it also means something else in a sense. And I know this is going to sound a little bit weird to some people, but just play along with me here. It also, to me, kind of signifies a passing of the torch, kind of like keeping up with that old versus new Lions mindset. Think about it here. When we take a look at some quarterbacks that have had situations that have happened to them, we have seen how one quarterback, one good or great quarterback, has passed the torch to another good or great quarterback, so that way they can carry on the work. Now, typically when that happens, the quarterback that went before them did something magnificent, great, historical, whatever. So in this way, it's a little bit different, but you're going to understand where I'm going with this. Think about it. When Montana was let go and traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, the torch was passed to Steve Young. When Brett Favre was traded to the Jets, the torch was passed to Rodgers. Well, think about it. When Stafford and Goff got traded, Stafford passed the torch to Goff to try and get the Lions onto that next page, to finally get out of their, losing ways. Unlike Favre and Montana, who had already created winning programs and were asking their heir apparents to continue on the legacy. Stafford was asking Goff, without necessarily saying it, listen, do what I couldn't do and get the Lions a winning program. Help them build that winning program. And I believe that when and if Goff beats Stafford and the Rams in the playoffs, that will finally fully submit and complete that whole passing of the torch there. So again, kind of keeping on with that theme of old versus new Lions. So there's that. Now, let's also think about how else this could be, this will be an epic and historical matchup between these two quarterbacks in this wild card game. Because now it's going to also bring in this conversation topic, this narrative. Who's the better Lions quarterback? I talked about this briefly in an episode way back. I'll put the episode link back up at the top, but you have to think about this here, folks. There are many Lions fans that still consider Stafford the better Detroit Lions quarterback due to his longevity, his production, and most especially his popularity. Again, if you've been on Twitter, you've been on Facebook, there's a lot of Lions fans that have popped up and they're like, listen, I'm not going to bash Stafford, I'm not going to boo him, I'm not going to do anything to get on his nerves, I'm not going to jeer him because he's still so popular here. But the way I look at it is, listen, regardless of what the man did for us for the first 12 years of his career, I don't care. If he ain't wearing the Honolulu blue and silver, jeer him, scream at him, do whatever you can, besides, doing anything illegal, to try and get into his head. Because, again, I'm a Lions fan. I'm not a Stafford fan first. I'm a Lions fan first. So that's what takes priority. Granted, I'm also a Goff fan, but c'est la vie. Now, think about this. The issue of Stafford versus Goff on who's the better Detroit Lions quarterback. Again, there's a lot of people that say you can't make that comparison because Stafford and Goff didn't have the same teams. They didn't have the same this, that, or the other thing. Okay, I get that argument. But at that point, in my opinion, you're arguing semantics here. Because everybody compares quarterbacks and ain't no quarterback ever going to have exactly what another quarterback has. It's just never going to happen. So you can argue semantics and split hairs with me all you want, but the comparison's still going to happen regardless. But let's think about this here. What has Goff done that Stafford never could do while here in Detroit? And again, is that all Stafford's fault? No, it's not. But it's part of what I'm saying here. Stafford was never able to get us to 11 wins in a season. Goff did. Goff got us to a division championship. Stafford never did, even though he got close once. Goff led us to 2 straight seasons of having 25 passing touchdowns as the Lions quarterback. Stafford never did that. Goff did. So again, that's another impressive feat, especially considering the kind of passer Stafford is and the fact that, like I've said before, for 7 years he had the second greatest wide receiver of all time in Megatron. Then you take a look at other things that Goff has done on a personal note. He is tied third in NFL history with the longest streak without an interception at 383 throws. That's pretty impressive. Very impressive, considering the two guys that are in front of him are Hall of Fame quarterbacks in, if I recall correctly, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Then you consider the fact that Goff also has been part of an offense, led an offense that did something that only one other offense has achieved, and did something that they are the first offense to do. The thing that they did with another offense is to have 4 offensive players with 10-plus touchdowns or more in a season. The only other team that did that was the 2013 Broncos. Now, the thing that the Lions offense has done this year that no other team has done is that, plus every single player that did that also had 850-plus yards of gained scrimmage yardage. So again, Goff has handled and has led an offense that has been absolutely prolific and has set NFL records. So now, when you consider all that, Stafford had perhaps like I said, you take a look at all those stats that I just talked about and all those things that Goff has accomplished. Take a look at, like I said, the fact Stafford had Megatron, and then you're starting to begin to understand here that those accomplishments that Goff has done with this Lions group in 3 years, and especially in this year, are even more impressive. So you have to think about it this way, folks. Some people are going to say that the only way that Goff, surpasses Stafford is if Goff wins a Super Bowl. And for some people, even if Goff wins a Super Bowl, they're still not going to give him his credit. But I think if you want to be completely fair to Jared Goff, if you want to be completely fair to the situation and to what he's done for the city of Detroit, for this Lions organization, win, lose, or draw, Jared Goff is still a better and more successful Lions quarterback, and I'm going to make a heavy emphasis on that, Lions quarterback. But if Stafford loses to Goff, if Goff gets that win over Stafford and the Rams in the playoffs at Ford Field, that would completely end the debate for, I would think, most people. Because it's like, listen, Goff got the division crown. Goff got a playoff win here at Detroit, something that has not happened in both situations in 30 years. That's a pretty impressive and rare feat for a Lions quarterback. So at that point, it's kind of hard to argue. But then, finally, the other thing that could make this game a really, really epic one is now what could possibly actually happen in the game. Here's what I'm saying here. We both know that the NFL is a passing league. We all know it. But I took a look at the statistical output from both of these defenses, and I gotta be honest with y'all. I think we're about to see an aerial assault from both quarterbacks on opposing defenses. And here's the reason why. I'm going to put the stats up on the screen so that way you guys can see this really quickly. But take a look at the Rams' overall season stats for all categories for the totality of 2023. When you take a look at their defense, there's a couple of things that are going to step out right away. One, their passing defense is subpar. They don't have a lot of turnovers. They have a lot of penalties committed on their defense, and they don't have a lot of turnovers in drives. Again, they've also got... There's just a lot of things that you look at this defense and some things pop out. But what's the overall message if you take a look at those rankings? It's about a mid-level defense. It's not a great defense, but it's not a terrible defense either. It's kind of in the middle. But the areas where they're particularly weak at are in pass coverage and in terms of turnovers. They're just not good at getting turnovers. They're not good at stopping quarterbacks. And on top of that, they get a lot of penalties. Now, that right there to some people is not going to make any sense to them, nor are they going to care. So I decided to say, okay, here, let's take a look at what the Rams have done over the last 5 games in certain statistical categories versus what they've done over the course of the season. Here's what you're going to find. First and foremost, let's take a look at what the Rams have done in terms of points per game, yards per game, passing yards per game, rushing yards per game, third down percentage, turnovers, passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns in terms of overall sacks as well. So first thing I'm going to show you all is the stats from the entirety of the season in terms of all those categories. So when you take a look at those stats, it doesn't look too bad for the Rams defense so far. Now, having taken a look at those stats, now take a look at how the Rams have done over the last 5 games. Now, why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing it is because I've heard some Rams fans that have said, oh, the Rams defense has been playing really, really good. Not really. It's been playing a little bit better in some areas, but otherwise it actually has gotten worse in some areas. Because here's the thing. The Rams are actually giving up more yards over the last 5 games than they've done over the total of the season. They've been giving up more passing yards per game than they've done the entirety of the season over the last 5 games. And on top of that, if you realistically want to think about it, the Rams have also been giving up more passing touchdowns over the last 5 games of the season in comparison to the first 12 games that they've done. And also, their third down average is pretty much about the same, and same with their points per game. The only thing that is actually statistically better for the Rams over the last 5 games is their rushing defense. They've brought the number down in rushing yards per game significantly, and their rushing touchdowns over the last 5 games compared to the rest of the games this season is also drastically dropped. So again, that's the one area that the Rams defense has been doing really well in, is stopping the run lately. Otherwise, the rest of their defense is either about the same or has actually kind of gotten a little bit worse. So there's that. Now, that begs the question about the Lions. Any Lions fans already knows that these stats are not going to look pretty, but I'm still going to put them up all the same to be fair. When you take a look at the Lions' total season stats, it's not a pretty picture. Again, points, they've not been good in that department. They haven't been good in virtually any department save the running department. Again, number 2 overall rush defense, 3rd in rush first downs given up, 3rd in rushing average given up. They've been great in the run defense all damn year. Got to give Aaron Glenn his credit there. But they've also gotten substantially better in terms of their 3rd down conversion percentage. They're now in the top 10 on that category, and they have the 2nd best pressuring defense in the NFL. Most of that, I would say, is credited to probably Aiden Hutchinson. But again, you take a look at the defensive stats and rankings, this is a defense that's definitely not met the standard that a lot of people thought the Lions were going to give this year, but it does have some areas where it's done rather well, and a lot of areas where it has not done rather well. But again, most people are not really going to care about the total season stats. That's just kind of like your basic guideline. When you take a look at, again, like what I did with the Rams and their season averages for all those stats versus their last 5 games, here's what happens during the season. Again, Lions are okay when it comes to their points per game. It's not too bad, but not great. Yards per game definitely needs to come down. Passing yards over the total of the season's not too bad. Running yards per game, that's pretty good. 3rd down conversion percentage, that's okay. Turnovers is okay. And then you get into the rest of it, and again, not great, but not terrible. Same thing for all of them. Well, then when you take a look at all those stats that I just showed for the entirety of the season, take a look at what the Lions have done over the last 5 games. Their points per game has actually dropped by 1, but that's pretty much comparable. There's not much difference there. What has really gone up for the Lions over the last 5 games is the yards per game they're giving up and the passing yards per game they're giving up. It's absolutely soared through the damn roof, which should surprise nobody because quarterbacks and wide receivers have been throwing on us for days. But take a look at rushing yards per game. That's dropped by over 10 yards. 3rd down conversion percentage. That's pretty much held at pretty much the exact same area. Turnovers, we actually went up in terms of overall turnovers over the last 5 games compared to the first 12 games of the season. Passing touchdowns from the last 5 games to the first 12 games, again, pretty much comparable. Same thing with rushing touchdowns. And sacks over the last 5 games versus the first 12 games has actually gone up. So the Lions defense has increased the amount of turnovers that they're getting. Sacks, points per game has maintained itself. Same thing with 3rd down conversion and passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns per game. So again, the Lions defense has either actually maintained itself rather well over the last 5 games in comparison to their season average, or has actually gotten better at it. The only area they have not been doing very well in is in the passing department, which is what I've been saying for the last 4 or 5 weeks. That's the Achilles heel of the Lions, at least their defense. Now, having put that all out there, this is why I said what I said, that this could be an aerial assault for both of these quarterbacks. Because we have to understand something here very, very much. Both Goff and Stafford, they, I believe, are going to put on an aerial assault, because what do you do in the playoffs? You try to exploit a team's weaknesses. Well, let's consider the fact the Rams and the Lions both have pretty good run defenses. Their pass defenses are suspect, especially the Lions. So let's consider the fact that Stafford, who is known in Detroit as Statford, has 2 prolific receivers in Kupp and Nakua. Then you take a look at Goff, who's got Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's a chance the Lions are going to get Laporta back because Dan Campbell said that there's a chance that he could play this game. They're definitely getting J-Mo back, and they've got Josh Reynolds as well, plus guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, who are also threats to catch the ball as well. So both teams have got some pretty prolific weapons to catch the ball in the passing game. And like I just said, both teams' pass defenses are not that good. And when you consider the weapons that I just mentioned off, with the statistical prowess of both these quarterbacks, which I'm going to show that right here, again, take a look at Goff. Goff is ranked 7th in completion percentage, 2nd in passing yards, 4th in passing touchdowns. This is for the total of 2023. 9th in passer rating, 14th in QBR, and 3rd in DVOA. Goff had yet again another top 10 season as a passing quarterback. Then, when you take a look at Stafford, his counterpart on the other hand, Stafford had a decent year statistically, but again, not terrible. 26th in passing completion, that's pretty low by his standards, but 11th in passing yards, tied 11th in touchdowns, that's good. Passer rating, again, on the low side, ranked 15th, so that's about mid-level, but QBR ranked 6th, DVOA ranked 9th. So again, Stafford had a good year, even though it was a little bit on the downside. But my whole point is this. I believe fully that both Stafford and Goff are going to be the main points of this game, and it's pretty much just going to be aerosol all over the freaking field. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if someone just says if we're having an Air Force game in the backyard and pretty much the quarterbacks are just thrown all over the defenses, because these two guys know how to sling the ball. They've got a lot of weapons. Both passing defenses are not that good. So to me, it's like, listen, which defense actually steps up and stops the opposing quarterback? And if I had to realistically think about it, I think the Lions defense has a slightly better shot than the Rams do, because the Lions are able to pressure the quarterback, they're able to sack the quarterback, and on top of that, they're much more opportunistic in getting turnovers than the Rams. So that's my honest opinion. But again, I believe fully that not only did the NFL set up this game for the natural narrative of Rams versus Lions, but they're going to try and push the narrative of Goff versus Stafford. And I'm telling you this right now, it wouldn't surprise me if the refs are pretty much allowing the wide receivers to play free to get as many passing yards as possible to continue to promote that narrative. That's just my personal opinion. But again, this is going to be an epic game between these two quarterbacks, and I believe that this is going to be the defining moment for Jared Goff as the Detroit Lions QB. I do believe that. But having said that, I believe I've explained myself relatively well with the stats, the reason, the logic, so I'm going to end the episode and say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. I also encourage you all please to do this. If you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and now had a chance to do so, again, I want to highly encourage you all to please subscribe. But after you subscribe, please make sure you turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. To also help in that endeavor, I want to encourage you all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. So that way we can continue to help grow the channel, we can continue to spread it, and that way we can continue to get more and more people in to help. And with that being said, I just want to say to everybody again, God bless. I hope you all enjoyed the content. I hope to gain your subscription. If I did, welcome to the family. If not, hopefully I'll catch you on the next time in. But again, I just want to say to everybody, God bless. Hope you all enjoyed the show. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.